Hey Garrett, did you see that we started a YouTube channel for the Digital Drive-In podcast?
No, I wasn't aware of that at all. Are you sure?
Yep, we really spared no expense on it. And thank you everyone for joining us at another episode of the Digital Drive-In podcast. My name is Alex. I'm joined as always by my prehistoric co-host Garrett.
I believe you'll notice that it's Count Nuggets of the Nug.
That's what you're going by now?
No.
Oh, I was going to say be sure to change that on your birth certificate.
Mm-hmm.
Your mom will be proud.
Mm-hmm.
And we're back with another normal episode, aren't we? The last 2 weeks have been a little different.
I'm just so excited to talk about Alien.
Yep, that's what we're talking about. Ridley Scott's Alien Covenant. The finest movie ever made.
All the answers I didn't know I needed to know.
I'll do you blow and I'll do the fingering.
What?
Huh? Have you seen Alien Covenant?
I know.
Then you should watch it.
Oh gosh, you say that about everything.
No, you shouldn't watch it.
Okay.
But the last 2 weeks have been a little different, haven't they? We did our villains episode. We followed it up with our best of 2018 special. You know, with our.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah, that's the order they're going up in. With our favorite movie that year, of course, being.
I'll put my hand in front of my face, and you can just put a mouth over it saying what the answer.
Well, we're back to a normal, boring old movie podcast today, aren't we? And what is that movie? The worst movie ever made.
Jurassic Park.
Yeah, awful.
It's frightening in the dark while the dinosaurs are running wild. Someone shut the fence off in the rain. I admit it's kind of eerie, but that proves my chaos theory, and I don't think I'll be coming back again.
And that'll do it for another episode of the Digital Drive-In podcast. Thank you for joining us. There'll never be another one.
Goodbye.
What is Jurassic Park? The movie.
Wow, that's a deep subject. I mean, it's like saying, what is life?
It really isn't.
Jurassic Park, I mean, it's just like what you think. It's what it sounds like. It is a park of dinosaurs.
Mm-hmm.
And it is, how can they put dinosaurs into a modern zoo? How could they possibly do that? And they found the DNA, but the DNA was incomplete. So they spliced things together to create the park of the future, where they're going to make lots and lots of money in merchandising. But before they open, they want to bring in a couple of respected, I guess Dr. Grant's a paleontologist. And then I don't really, I mean, I guess Jeff Goldblum is a writer, kind of philosopher, because he's all into chaos theory.
Paleontologist as well.
Is he? I couldn't remember if they said that.
Yes, she is. I was talking about Laura Dern.
What about Jeff Goldblum?
I don't know. You already covered that. So then I said Ellie's a paleontologist too. Okay,
well, the Ellie part didn't come through the audio.
Yep.
Okay. You can edit out my ignorance. Nope. Or not, whatever. And so,
again.
Thanks, Who. We are going to basically follow the introduction of the three premier people that they're trying to get the thoughts of the park right before it opens. And that's what the storyline is.
Because things go wrong inside a Michael Crichton theme park.
Yeah, it's like a reoccurring theme between Michael Crichton writing about things like that, and Spielberg talking about nature uncontrolled with Jaws.
Yep.
What can happen? And
Westworld.
But that's a new TV show.
It was a movie, bitch.
I own it.
Nah, you don't. You don't.
And I also have seen Future World, the sequel.
Oh, yeah.
Which was terrible.
I guess we'll just dive right on into Jurassic Park, Garrett.
Splash.
Welcome to Jurassic Park.
Na, 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 na.
But what makes this movie so great, Garrett? What's your experience with it?
Wait, those are two different questions. I would say what makes the movie great is characters, solid pacing and direction, and the score. My experience with it is I saw it when it was released at the theater back in good old 1985. No, when did this come out? 94?
93.
93. Whenever it came out, I saw it. I didn't drive myself, but I
Right.
watched it with my mom.
Wow.
And then I remember, I want to say it was I think it was McDonald's had it where you could buy the VHS through the drive-thru.
Really?
Like, yeah,
Wow.
it was crazy. It was like that and Addams Family, and there was a couple others.
Cool.
And that was the first time I ever owned it. Now I've got it on Blu-ray. I think this is one of the movies where I've bought on every format that it came out for.
Laserdisc?
Well, I haven't bought it on 4K yet, but VHS, DVD, and Blu-ray.
Cool. Digital?
No, I do have it on digital because it was Blu-ray and digital when it came out.
There you go. But yeah, so you say this is like a movie, would you say, that you've loved for a very long time?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those, like, I'm trying to think, which is a hard thing to do. I don't know that I would ever, like, say, this is my favorite movie of all time, but I think it's endlessly rewatchable, and I've always, like, respected it and thought highly of it and enjoyed it from the moment it came out until watching it last night.
Mm-hmm.
Like, nothing has changed. I don't think it ages.
No, I would agree with you. It's thoroughly enjoyable. Like I was saying off the air, it's one of those first movies I remember terrifying me as a kid. When I was watching it, it was like, whoa, this is scary. This is scary. And as I got older and rewatched it, it got less scary, but still very, very intense, which I think is something incredibly impactful that it does.
Right.
It retains that level of intensity and masterful filmmaking 26 odd years after it comes out.
Yeah, I mean, in that respect, it's like the original King Kong.
Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, it's plagued down by sequels and reboots and such, all of which are not as good as this one is. But at the same time, I do think that this stands alone and it stands the test of time. Even though those other 4 movies exist, this is the one that kind of stands above them all easily.
Yeah, it kind of makes the other 4 irrelevant because the only thing they can really, or they have shown to have done, is just kind of mimic some of the parts that were good, but they never quite pull it off.
Right. I don't know. What would you say the closest or the best one of the bunch is? Lost World?
Probably, yeah. Well, Spielberg directed that one too, right?
Yeah, I would say World was my favorite of all the sequels, but Lost World is a second.
That's fair.
I mean, Fallen Kingdom is terrible. As we talked about last week, it was one of my, if not my least favorite film of last year, of 2018. It was just this abysmal mismatch of ideas and tones and just made zero sense whatsoever. We're so far away from where the franchise started now. It's incredible.
Well, yeah, I mean, and just to tell you, like, how I felt about the others, even though I don't feel that they are as high as the first movie, I saw the first 4 in the theater.
Right.
And then the newest one, I didn't even go and see it. I didn't even rent it. I haven't seen it on Blu-ray.
Seen it yet. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I haven't done anything with it. So, like, to go and see 4 movies of the franchise at the theater when they come out and then not even care at all about seeing the next one tells you something.
Yep, but we're talking more about the first one, the perfect one, today.
Sure. Right.
And we kind of already said it off the top, but what makes this movie so great? We'll start at the top. We'll start with the man himself, I suppose, Steven Spielberg, who we've done a lot of films by on this podcast so far, or ones that he's had a hand in, right? We talked about Raiders of the Lost Ark was our first ever episode, and that was obviously directed by him. Back to the Future was produced by him. We talked about Schindler's List a couple of weeks ago a little bit, which of course was also directed by him. And I'm sure we've made mentions of him a bunch of times, but why, Garrett? Why have we made so many mentions of this guy? What makes him so special?
I recently got a book about the time period of like the 60s and the 70s, basically, where the new Hollywood was coming to the forefront and the studio system itself was going to the wayside. So you had like these like visionary auteurs that were making films that they wanted to make, and it was almost like solely their vision, even though they had other people working with them. As movies are like, it's a huge conglomerate of multiple people doing different jobs. But there were these directors that came out that no matter what kind of movie they did, it seemed like it was their movie.
Right.
And one of the ones they mentioned was Spielberg, and it's just for better or for worse, he created the summer blockbuster.
Yeah.
Uh, he made adventure movies come back into form, having a movie centralized around a charismatic main character. I mean, there's so many things that if he didn't pioneer, he brought to the forefront and made a movie that could be entertaining to anyone, regardless of their age, regardless of their race, regardless of their background. It's like you could enjoy seeing a fun movie of his. And
Mm-hmm.
he did get to a point to where I think he just started making serious film, and it's not like that anymore. So it's almost like a time capsule.
Right.
He's living nostalgia, it seems like.
Yeah, which is really interesting. A lot of his movies and a lot of the ones that he's produced as well hold a dear place in my heart.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, Back to the Future is my favorite movie of all time. Raiders is up there. This one's up there. And it's interesting, like you said, to see how much he influenced the rest of cinema since since like Jaws, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Since he started out, he's just been this ever increasing one to watch every single time something came out. And I would say he is one of the most important directors of all time. If not with the current state of our movies, maybe the most important. Because you said he created the summer blockbuster, and now that's in more of a full swing than it ever was before. And
Mm-hmm.
it's intriguing to see how far some of the ideas he laid the groundwork for have come. And it's interesting for Spielberg because he kind of has a masterful. Oh fuck me, he kind of has a masterful film in almost every genre, I would say. While everything kind of stays the same, Spielbergian qualities, you could always tell one apart from the rest of the directors. I think like he mastered the war genre with something like Saving Private Ryan or Adventures with Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark, I was going to say. Or his sci-fi films like Close Encounters or E.T.
Mm-hmm.
He really just did this big spread, historical films with Schindler's List. This one it's a bit sci-fi too. It's interesting to see how far his grasp goes on so much different aspects of cinema. Absolutely say he's one of my favorite filmmakers of all time, no matter how cliche it is to say Steven Spielberg is just my favorite or whatever. Because he is.
Sure.
He is this just ever present force, like you said, living nostalgia, but he's still kicking. His movies are still good enough, I think. Spielberg at his worst is like better than a lot of people at their best, which is
Right. No,
something I
he's still
find very
respectable.
interesting. Mm-hmm. And he's gotten to that point, like you said, where he's moved into more serious films. Yeah, doing stuff like the Lincoln and the Post and Bridge of Spies and all of that. But
Amistad, yeah.
they all just still hold those core Spielberg qualities, I think, which is something that's endlessly watchable, no matter what he does. And maybe he can return to form in the coming years. He's doing Indiana Jones 5. Who knows how that's going to be? He's doing West Side Story, which I'm kind of excited for, to see his directorial style in a musical. I have a feeling he'll have a lot of subtle long takes and stuff like that within the music itself, which is kind of cool. But yeah, maybe he can bring it back to that fun era again. Because with Ready Player One, it seemed like it's something he kind of wanted to do. He wanted to return to that adventure feel, and I don't think that was fully realized in that. But who knows? Maybe the future. Because he's still kicking. God, that was like a 5-minute tangent. Are you there?
I'm here. Yeah. No, I mean it's let you breathe. And I haven't seen Ready Player One, so I can't comment on that.
It is good. It is fun and enjoyable, I think. It's not great. It's not the best story wise, but it's got that Spielbergian quality. And if you're a nerd, there's a lot of stuff to really enjoy. And you probably already know the sequence, but there's one sequence, if you're a film nut, that will make you absolutely lose your fucking mind. So I do recommend watching it if you can get it for free somehow. If you can stream it for free, it's worth checking out.
Right.
Do you know what sequence I'm talking about or no?
I do.
Okay.
And I saw it. I saw that
Oh,
sequence.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck, I love when the elevator comes down and it plays the music though. It's kind of sweet.
That's fine.
I remember seeing it in theaters because I had read the book and they had done something different in the book. It was like he did the entirety of War Games. He reenacted it, which is stupid.
Right.
But I was wondering if they were going to like reenact bits of War Games, and I was like, that's kind of dumb. I don't think War Games is very impactful. Oh, we're doing The Shining, and it was kind of just like kind of mind blowing to see it on the big screen like that because it did look a lot like the Overlook Hotel. It was pretty cool how they did that with the CG. Well,
there you go.
Jurassic Park.
What? Okay, so that's the director. What do you think about the cinematography?
What's that? Dean Cundy?
Yeah.
He shot some of my favorite films ever. He shot Raiders. No, he didn't shoot Raiders. He shot Back to the Future. And he shot The Thing and Jurassic Park. But those are three films I think use their cinematography and especially darkness, I think, to their advantage. The Thing has these ominous, spooky uses of pitch black, but then with a little bit of light. I think this film does that well too, or with the rain.
Right,
Well,
and
obviously
he
the
also
Back to the Future shot.
He filmed Halloween.
That's true. He did shoot Halloween as well, which is the same thing. So I love the way all four of those films are shot, and he's made a little bit of crap too, but
Right.
It makes me wonder if it's more on the director or if it's on him as well. But I think you said off air that you don't think everybody gets behind the camera in the way Kubrick does. So it's got to be a lot of him doing some of the stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's like when you say John Carpenter, you picture a very certain image, and you also picture sound. But considering he did Halloween, The Thing, Big Trouble in Little China, Escape from New York, I mean that's some of the big ones. He also did Who Framed Roger Rabbit,
right?
And then the 3 Back to the Future movies. So those were 4 Zemeckis movies that have a very distinct look. Zemeckis movies outside of those, not that I don't like Zemeckis, but he has a lot of uneven newer films that I think aren't as interesting looking, and I wonder if it's
some garbage.
Yeah. And then Spielberg, he did with Jurassic Park. He also did with Hook, and while I didn't necessarily love Hook or anything, it did have a distinctive look to it. Apollo 13 has a very distinctive look. So it's like that's like what 12 movies
that are great.
Yeah. So yeah, I like Roadhouse, but he also did Romancing the Stone, which is like just a lower tier to Indiana Jones. So yeah, he did some bad ones.
But he's done some great ones.
Right.
Some excellent ones. You're perfect.
So it's like sometimes, I mean, if he doesn't get the budget or he doesn't have the director behind him, he can only shoot what's there.
I think if you shoot 2 of my favorite 10 films of all time, you can qualify as one of my favorite cinematographers.
Yeah.
At least 2. I'm trying to remember what I had said the other day on Reddit were my 10 of my favorites, but yeah, I shot 2 of them with The Thing and Back to the Future, but still, it's cool. Yeah, good stuff. And there's some very awesome imagery in this film. Some of it, I think, again, came from Spielberg and his ideas, but if it wasn't shot by Cundy, I don't think it would be as impactful. And who knows, maybe that was what The Lost World was missing. Did he shoot that one?
I think that was the only Jurassic movie he shot.
See? So maybe some of it was missing that kind of influence.
His look, yeah.
Yeah. Because there's stuff in this movie like the iconic, and we're going to be using that word a lot, or at least I am, the water cup, where it's like rippling as the T-Rex is coming towards them, or just that entire sequence in general. But, the shot where they come up to the Brachiosaurus for the first time, and we see that. It's wonderful stuff, is it not?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
26 years later, it's still awe-inspiring.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is too, like his ability through multiple directors to film convincing horror and then funny comedy and kind of have them at the same time. That's not very easy to do.
No, I think a lot of it has to come from Spielberg though as well.
Sure.
Because like we were saying off the air, with that sequence where they do see the Brachiosaurus for the first time, the music has this. It's a smart decision to keep it mellow. But again, that's like I guess we can talk about John Williams as well. Mm-hmm. John Williams' score in this is phenomenal. Like, again, iconic, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Jurassic Park theme is so ingrained in film culture. It's amazing. But
it's a shame he never did anything outside of that.
What do you mean?
He never did any memorable compositions outside.
Yeah, this is his only good movie, John Williams. But like the choice to have not big and bombastic music the first time you see a dinosaur,
right,
is wonderful, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
To just have it kind of be, because you would have that sense of awe, wouldn't you, if you saw a Brachiosaurus? So I think that very like mellow, kind of like very in line with the feeling of seeing something like that for the first time. It's like the music equivalent of the expression that Grant and Sadler give when they see the dinosaur. Or similarly, the choice to cut all music during the T-Rex padlock scene.
Right.
It just gives it this like frightening, scary feel, right? Mm-hmm. Now we'll get to that scene in a little bit because I do want to talk about a couple of key scenes in this movie that are fucking fantastic. So what about John Williams? Anything you want to say?
I know people have criticized him for using similar cues. But I mean, the one that I remember probably the most would be Jaws. Mm-hmm. You know, having that motif of, hey, there's a villain coming and you don't even necessarily have to see him on screen. But he's the guy who scored the soundtrack to my childhood, basically, you know, because like you said, you know, it's Star Wars, it's Jurassic Park, it's Raiders, it's E.T., he did Home Alone, he did Close Encounters, you know, he did Superman. So there's just so many things, and they're instantly recognizable, you know. So I think for him to have the maturity to hold back in some of those sections and to like understand what was needed, regardless of whether it was him or Spielberg making the call or if it was a completely collaborative effort, having those two guys work together, they do really well together, and I think they like understand things, and that's why they have so many memorable things together because of it.
I would argue, at least far and away, one of the greatest composers of all time in film.
Sure.
I mean,
sure.
Just his pure knowledge behind a scene, I think, and knowing what to put where. I would say that it falls more to Spielberg as well. I would say that, but it doesn't. I don't think, because he appears like John Williams does music outside of Spielberg.
Right.
And his score is still fantastic over there, too. All of his Harry Potter stuff, like you said, soundtrack to your childhood, soundtrack to my childhood, too. For all the stuff you talked about, but then I grew up with the Harry Potter movies as well.
Right.
His score for there, I think he only did the first 3.
But then they reused this.
But they reused it, and not only that, but they built upon it too. So there was always that sense and that feeling of John Williams ever present.
I'd say he's probably in my top 3.
Yeah, it's incredible stuff. I don't know who else would be in my top 3. He'd probably be my number 1.
I think I would go Bernard Herrmann, Ennio Morricone, John Williams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great stuff. Really knows how to accent a scene and to accent action with each note, with each beat of music. And I think we talked about that back in Raiders, right?
Right.
Knowing when to do what. Dun 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 dun.
I really think that the music helps a lot with the pacing too, because it's like when we were watching it, we talked about the first hour basically just being introductions to characters and setting things into place, but then it flies by
Yeah, your
because
hour
if
is
you like,
over very quickly. The
yeah, it's not
T-Rex
dragging.
padlock is the first sort of big moment in the movie,
Right,
action-wise, and it's an hour in.
right.
Like that's yeah, but it keeps your attention up until then, and then it keeps it right till the end too, because it's a roller coaster in that second hour. Doesn't
Mhm.
stop.
I agree with everything. You're just doing Star Wars now.
Yeah, but yeah, I guess we could start to talk about, because we talked about introductions is about the first hour, but who gets introduced, Garrett? Who are the characters, and why don't we
Well,
talk about how brilliant they all are?
I mean, the first thing you're introduced basically is the raptor.
Yeah.
Shooter.
Yep, and we were talking about how great of an opening hook that is to the movie.
hmm Yeah, it's like the lighting, the I mean, the cool thing, like one of the fun things when you're a kid is almost like seeing something you're not supposed to see, kind of like
Yeah.
you're getting away with it. And it's like even though it doesn't show any blood and it's not like horrific, it's dark enough and it's scary enough to
Hmm.
where it kind of gives you that feeling like you're seeing a more adult film than what you should be.
Right. Yeah.
But watching as an adult, you're just like, hey, that's fun. Go get the guy, dinosaur. It's like you're kind of cheering for the dinosaur to do things.
Yeah.
And it's one of those movies. It's almost like there's not really a villain. I mean, maybe Nedry at the most, but he
Yeah.
wasn't hurting anybody really.
Not
It was
intentionally.
Yeah, it was unintended consequences to what he was doing to try to escape without them knowing. But it wasn't like a I'm gonna take over the world. It's like he just wanted money for his gambling debts or
Yeah.
whatever it was.
It's like, would you like the only closest thing would be Hammond is the unintentional villain just by creating it to begin with.
Right.
But yeah, like we were talking about, there's very low body count in the movie too.
Right.
There isn't really a core antagonistic force at all. Like
That's like
nature
fighting
is
against. Yeah. Right.
is the
It's
antagonist, I guess.
man's hubris is the
Playing
antagonist.
God. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is interesting.
Scientists were so preoccupied to think if they could, they never stopped to think if they should. Which I think there's so many lines in this movie that are just perfect, right?
Oh yeah.
To
And then
describe everything like that. Like that one.
especially in this meme culture where little clips of video can be turned into a GIF and be played countless times.
See, nobody
It's
cares.
life finds a way.
Well, there it is. Must go faster. What are we talking about?
We were just talking about the introductions to the characters
Right.
and like how well done they were.
Yeah.
We were, Sam Neill being very professional in the way that
Mhm.
he goes about his digs, and then there's like the kid going like, it's just a 6-foot turkey. Who gives a crap? Like that's
Yeah.
not scary. And then it's like he kind of taps into that little bit of a darkness to show no, these dinosaurs they would be dangerous to humans.
Hmm.
So there's like a lot of setup and there's a lot of like Chekhov's gun where the things they mention at the beginning of the film will show up later in the film. But it's
Yeah,
also
but
really
it's
good.
like, yeah, because it introduces us to his character. He doesn't like kids. He is very smart. He knows what he's doing. He knows what he's talking about. But it also sets up the raptors and what they're going to be doing later in the film, how dangerous they are, all within the same monologue, really.
Yeah. And it also shows like his like distrust and his unease at technology and where the future is going with the way they're
Hmm.
doing things.
Hmm. Which, of course, Sam Neill's arc in general is pretty fantastic, with his not liking kids, not wanting kids, and then being thrust into being the one that has to look after the kids.
hmm And then they completely kill it in the sequels.
Yeah, but as a standalone, a little bit though.
Oh yeah, no, fantastic.
Yeah, the way he bonds with these kids throughout the film are very. It feels very genuine, and you can actually kind of see the person change to the point where the arc is complete. I said when he pulls off the greatest of dad jokes at the fence.
hmm
when he grabs the fence and he pretends like he's getting shocked, and then
That's great.
Yep. Anything else for Grant there?
Well, I mean, you could just completely retell the story of the film. I mean, it would be easy to. It's the characters are almost to like an archetype where they're like you can quickly tell what type of characters they are, and they're defined in such a way to where you like the things that the characters do aren't off-putting or out of place.
Right.
So like having Grant be kind of like the stalwart character that looks at things in a certain way and is kind of set in his ways, and then to have Goldblum kind of like be this aloof guy who's flirty but never really sticks down with anything and is just more like makes quips and doesn't really take things too seriously until he has to take things serious.
I think that's what I was talking about at one point too, is I liked how both Grant and Malcolm are massively egotistical.
Mm-hmm.
And yet when the T-Rex padlock scene happens, they totally put it aside just to save the kids.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, do they totally put aside? Because Malcolm does get out of the car to distract the dinosaur, even though Grant clearly has it under control.
Right.
Or is that just a matter of a heat of the moment? Like, I have to help somehow.
Yeah, I mean, some of it then gets into also like storytelling devices of like we need to give Malcolm something to do, and knowing the story structure of having to like separate people later. Like if you have Malcolm go down with the kids into the ravine, then you don't have Grant having the ability to bond strictly with the kids and be a protector to the kids alone.
Right.
So you have to figure out a way to get him away from, but you also don't want to kill him because that's a character you want to bring in. So it's like some of it is out of necessity of the writing of the plot, which Crichton was good at doing that kind of stuff, is setting the pieces around, and then some of it is being able to show what kind of character he is or have some sort of conflict as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard to say clearly when one supersedes the others, but
Right. Maybe it's just like a matter of a bunch of people who are at the top of their game working together. You can't pinpoint where the greatness lies because it's all of it.
Sure. Like you have to have story, and you have to have characters, and you have to have direction.
Another great character is Laura Dern's Ellie Sattler, who is a very strong female character, I think. Just as strong as the guys are, certainly. If not more so at times.
Yeah, she didn't have to have a guy come and save her.
Yeah. Yeah, which I mean in this culture where we're looking at females in films so highly now, and we're parading around Wonder Woman and Captain Marvel, and rightfully so to an extent, for their portrayals and their characters. They've existed for a very long time. Strong female roles. I think, like you said, they're just not kind of pushing an agenda like Ripley and Sarah Connor.
Right. Well, to me, when you have characters that are equals and they don't look at each other based upon their sex necessarily as to whether or not they can do something, it doesn't stand out because they're just another character.
Right.
People weren't being sexist to her. They weren't saying, "Oh, well, you can't go turn off the power because you're a girl." It's like there weren't even jokes about it. It's like she was just a character.
Yeah.
No one questioned her credentials. Well, Sam, I want Sam Neill to come with me to do the dinosaurs. Well, I guess you can come too because you're his girlfriend.
Right.
It's like, no, I'm here to recruit both of you as a team because you're both working on it and you're both respected. I would like for both brilliant. Of you to come.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's like the reason why it doesn't stand out as being some sort of an icon for equality is because it actually treats everybody equal and it doesn't stand out.
Because it is equality.
Right.
Which is interesting because I don't have any doubts that Captain Marvel is going to have stuff like that.
Sure.
Where it's like, I'm going to do it. No, you can't. You're a girl. Yes, I am. And then she flies in and saves the day. But to an extent, that's almost okay now, I guess, because there hasn't been a lot of that representation in superhero films.
Yeah.
But
so it's not like they're saying there's only one way to do it and there's only one way to portray characters. But it's just, don't forget the fact that there have It's not like it's only a thing that has happened in the last year or two.
Right. It's been around since the 70s, if not earlier.
Right. I mean, there basically since film has been made, there have been female representation. Now,
Right.
it might be that like the percentages have been off or the popularity isn't equal,
Right.
and to be able to focus on, hey, pay attention to these stories as well because they're also really good and you will also enjoy them if you enjoy film, is a fine thing to do.
Yeah.
But it's not like it, we haven't had a woman filmmaker or a woman character
Right.
that has been treated this way since 2017. Yeah, that's
Right.
not.
No. No, but I love a lot of the like when Ellie does the whole turning off the power bit.
Hmm.
I just love that entire sequence, but I think Laura Dern portrays her very realistically as well.
Yeah.
It seems like though in those senses, that's the kind of way people will be reacting. Very obviously, when you have a arm fall on you, but
Yeah, and speaking of that, one of the things I thought like the newer films got wrong is like they would have a nerdy guy doing the computer stuff, and the nerdy guy would be making references and actually have like a Jurassic Park shirt and was like your prototypical nerdy guy.
mm-hmm.
But Samuel L. Jackson is in this, and he doesn't act like a gangster. He's not throwing around like yo-yo-yos, I'm not even supposed to be in here kind of, it's like
Yeah.
he's a guy that works with computers and he's trying to like fix the problems that Nedry caused, and he's just a guy. And I think that's really refreshing and interesting that they didn't feel the need to crank up anything.
And I love seeing Samuel L. Jackson pre Samuel L. Jackson.
Yes.
We were
I
talking
like
about
that we
that
talked
earlier
about
too.
that. Yeah.
We were like, this is him before his shtick kind of caught on. And it's him, I don't want to say actually trying, because I do feel like he tries still.
Right.
But it's him not playing up to his Samuel L. Jackson-ness.
He's playing a character. He's being an actor.
Yeah. Which, we saw, I think, in Goodfellas or Die Hard with a Vengeance even.
Yeah, I mean, he was in like 187 where he was a teacher. There were tons of movies where he's.
And I'd love to see him do it again.
Yeah,
I'd love to see him go back to it.
He's sort of played into the fact that he's a meme,
right?
Which is fine.
Which works. It works,
yeah.
But I'd love to see that trying again.
I would like to see him actually play a role as an actor rather than being the guy from Snakes on a Plane.
Yeah. But I think that boils all down to the core excellency of the script and the actors. It's very humanistic. Everybody feels real.
Mm-hmm.
They all act like humans would and make decisions that humans would. And it's fantastic, I think, to see play out. And it's endlessly rewatchable, like you said, where you get this sort of all these different arcs working together. The characters they're all perfect, I would say. They really are. Every piece of the puzzle works towards, something great. I don't know where I was going with that tangent.
No, and the thing is, the positives outweigh the flaws because there are flaws in the story, there are flaws in the visuals, there are things that go on. But rather than your mind being stuck with that, you can't move on. You can have suspension of disbelief where you can move on from that and not dwell on it and enjoy the story for the way that it's portrayed. And that takes a special movie to be able to do that.
Yeah. And this is one special movie. As we could talk about, like I said earlier, some of the key scenes in this movie, I suppose. We'll just, I guess, go chronologically. The first one being that I wanted to talk about, we kind of already did talk about it, but the first introduction to the dinosaurs.